Dvorak trying to come in alone. Shoot! Score! He got it good! He got it good, baby! He wins it for the Lightning! 5-4 in overtime!
Taylor the shot, redirected, score! Game 7, Montana St. Louis! We are going back to Tampa Bay! Cavalier spinning. Cavalier looking, trying to drop it off, brings it in himself, left it in the middle, shot, score!
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Thunderstruck with, of course, your host, Philip, and Jake is here as well, and I also got my buddy, Victor Cabrera. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much. How you doing, Phil?
Doing great, man. We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of happening upcoming as well as what happened over the last few games that have transpired since we had our last show. The first things first, guys. We had a trade today. The first trade in a while. Slater Cuckoo got traded to the Chicago Blackhawks for Jan Rutta. Jan Rutta is a 6'3" defenseman, and he's a much bigger body than Slater Cuckoo. And we all thought that Slater Cuckoo was going to get traded this year. But what do you think about this trade, Jake?
This was a trade we saw coming for a while, or not saw coming, but it was expected to come eventually. It was a while. Cuckoo unfortunately got stuck on the bottom of that depth chart with Cernic's emergence. The Lightning just didn't have a need for him per se. So this trade, I like this trade. This was to get him out, go get him some playing time. Obviously, I wouldn't have mind seeing Cuckoo stay in the minors and possibly take a crack at it next season with some of our defensemen possibly leaving. But I like the guy they got with in Rutta, being a 6'3" guy. He's a big guy, can throw the body around. He's played 23 games so far this season. He's got 2 goals and 6 points, which is not too bad for a defenseman like him. So I'm happy with the trade. It's good that we got him out. We don't have to hear any more free Cuckoo rumors anymore.
Yeah, what do you think, Victor?
Yeah, it's better to trade him now. It would have been great to keep him for depth, but he's not playing. It's a good move. We're going to get a new guy on the team for Syracuse, most likely. And he can take a crack at it, too, next season. If not, Foot's there. We'll see what happens with the whole shake-up next season.
Right, I was going to say, too, Rutta can still be some depth as well if we need him. He can jump in there as well. And not that I don't think we'll need him, but he's good depth as well.
Yeah, and not only that, guys, but what I kind of like about him is that he is a right shot defenseman, and basically we're kind of short on them right now. Sergachev does play left and right side, which I mentioned before, but we don't have that many right-handed, so it's a good depth move, like you all said, and I really like this trade. Slater Cuckoo does play on the left side, so it's a great move for the depth, and like you all said, if worst comes to worst, you can send him into Syracuse, and it won't be bad there either for their team, and they've been playing really well this season as well. Another thing that happened, guys, is Nikita Kucherov was named the first star of December. So Nikita Kucherov, at that point, he recorded 30 points in December, 9, 21, and 30 in the 14 games played, to become the first NHL player to register 30-plus points in a calendar month since Jaromir Jagr in March 2001. Yeah, that's crazy stats, guys, and that's really good company for him to be in.
What a month by Nikita Kucherov. I mean, this just shows how good he is, how hot he can get. I think some people at the beginning of the season, very early on, were kind of wondering, where is Kucherov? He's not scoring as many goals as he did last season, and then he just turned the Jets on in the month of December. That's an amazing stat. That's an amazing company to be with. Jaromir Jagr, obviously one of the greatest NHL players of all time. He's up there, so good for him. And Kucherov's been continuing as well. I mean, he hasn't stopped. He's still playing at such a high level, and it's great to see for the Bolts.
It's a crazy stat because 2001, you know how many great players there have been through that time. And 30 points, you said 14 games a month. To be that consistent, that's averaging a little bit over 2 points a game. That's just crazy. And the team to be performing so well where he's not just the only player producing. That's probably the biggest factor there. That he's not he's the number one guy, but there's still so much support.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to kind of talk about, guys. As far as Nikita Kucherov, I would say he's a good candidate for the Hart. Yes, he plays on a stacked team, which is kind of the argument right now. He has 72 points now, and just because, the month of December hit a great month, but he's not slowing down. This is a player that has had a great season all season, and like Jake and I mentioned before, he's becoming more of a playmaker than he is a goal scorer. And the way that he plays, it's amazing to watch. It's almost like a Pavel Datsyuk.
Oh yeah, Nikita Kucherov, I think, definitely deserves to be up there for that conversation. He's not. We've been saying he's becoming more of a playmaker, but yet he still has 21 goals, which is the 21st best in the league in the NHL right now. So he's first in assists with 51, and like you said, first in points in 72. If he keeps up this play, I don't think there is a reason you can say that he shouldn't deserve the Hart Trophy. Yes, he's playing on a good team, but you still have to play at a high level no matter how many other good guys around you. Just because you have multiple all-stars around you doesn't mean you're going to play at a high level. You still have to work hard, and you still have to make plays yourself.
The NHL has him ahead of McKinnon for the race that they just did the article 3 days ago. And McKinnon's on a good team, a stacked team, pretty good. Just because they had a drop in play and had an ugly situation with the coaching the other day with McKinnon himself, that just proves that Kucherov should also be able to win it if McKinnon can win it. McKinnon's on a good team. Just because the team right now is struggling, their team is struggling, doesn't mean that you can take Kucherov and say, oh, he's on a good team.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. The Avs are a great team. But if you look at the Lions, if you just compare them, I would say that the Tampa Bay Lightning have better support. It's argumentative where they say that Nathan McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog are the best line in hockey, which, it is a great line. So, I'm not going to, smack talk it or anything like that. But at the same time, you look at our depth compared to their depth, I don't see any comparison. Next up, you got the All-Star game, guys. The All-Star game, we got a few Bulls guys. Nikita Kucherov made it, as well as Steven Stamkos, and John Cooper also made it, guys, as well as Andrei Vasilevsky. Andrei Vasilevsky is a fill-in for Carey Price there. Carey Price is missing the All-Star game. Now, it says that it's an injury, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And unfortunately, #VotePoint did not happen.
Yeah, definitely a lot of deserving players that got back in for the All-Star. With the Lightning having such a good team, we have so many players that deserve to be in there. But unfortunately, there's just not enough spots. Stamkos and Kucherov, I think those are obvious fill-ins. These guys are big-name players who both played great in December, like we just mentioned. Vasi, well-deserved. He played great. He's still playing great ever since he came back from his injury, and I'm glad to see he got in. As for Price, I'd like to think that it's an injury, that it's bothering him, and they don't want to take any risk. This could be also wording to try and get around the suspension. But nevertheless, Vasi gets the nod from that, so I'm not complaining here. It was unfortunate that Point didn't get in. I'm a little surprised, honestly. I thought Toronto would have the competition, but it came from Buffalo, which surprised me a little bit. But despite him not getting in, I think it's more than likely because he just doesn't have the rain recognition that most other players do.
Yeah, I totally agree. His name isn't one of the biggest, most weighed names. I didn't think Skinner would get in either, although he has good stats, not better than Point. I actually did think Riley would go, simply because they would try to get 4 defenders in, and we saw that for the Metro. Letang is going, so I would have thought that theme continued. But Skinner's a good player. Point, just to be recognized as the last man in on such a stacked team, that's a pretty good honor too, on its own. So I'm pretty sure in the future he's going to keep being one of the top candidates. I would have liked to see him go over Stamkos and then Stamkos be the last man in. They would have probably all gotten in that way, but it is how it is.
Yeah, I agree. If Stamkos went in or didn't go in, Point got in, Stamkos would definitely be on that last man in vote. And, with his name recognition, I don't think there's any way Stamkos would have lost that.
And that's one of the things that we were talking about before this show. Jake and I actually had a discussion where we said that if Stammer was off the list and he was the last man in, he would have been voted in because, like you guys said, because of name recognition and his play as well this season. I mean, who are you going to know more of, Steven Stamkos or Jeff Skinner?
Absolutely. And I honestly think Point deserved to be on this list before, I think he deserved to be on it more than Stamkos. If you look at his stats, I mean, Point is not leading the league, but he is up there in all possible categories. Point is currently 4th in goals with 28. He's in the top 20 for assists, and he's also 6th in points. So, I mean, Braden Point is at top of the league in all of these categories. He's playing so well. He's played better than Stamkos, but Stamkos had that hot month of December, which is ultimately, I think, why he got in.
Yeah, I think Point is just in a little tough spot. Remember last season, the Memorial Trophy, he wasn't even a finalist, the Calder, and he could have.
Next up, guys, I want to kind of go back and talk about the games that have happened over the last week and a half. First things first is that the Tampa Bay Lightning went to play the Anaheim Ducks. I fortunately went to this game, as I mentioned before. Nikita Kucherov was a goal scorer in that one, and then Nick Ritchie answers, and in the final overtime, Braden Point scores, of course. I mean, he is Mr. Overtime himself, so I'm not surprised with that one. It was a tough competition this game because the Ducks played hard, but at the same time, it was the Lightning going on top, and considering we're top in the league, it's not very surprising.
It was more of a surprising effort from Anaheim. I wasn't expecting 2-1 game. I know the last time I did watch them in person, that happened to be the score, 2-1. I don't know. It's always like they play hard-fought games, and for it to go to overtime, I mean, the funny part about that was I could see you on TV, like, somewhat celebrating, and all the angry Ducks fans kind of looking over, like, who the hell is this guy over here? Just, like, how dare you come in here to Honda Center and take a win like that?
Yeah, this was a different game for sure for Lightning. They've been consistently scoring, about 5 goals per game in the month of December. Then they have this 2-1 game. But I think this was a reassuring game for Bolts fans once again. This showed that the Lightning are still able to come in and win games where it is a low-scoring game and the offenses aren't flying at a high pace. This was the first game the defense, really was pretty good. They locked down and only let Anaheim get one past them. So I think that was a good defensive game, and I think you got to be happy to see that as a Bolts fan.
Yeah, especially since that's one of the things that you and I talked about before, Jake, is that, we need to play more defense and not so much of an offensive game. So you have more of these not so much closer games, but you want to keep the other team off the scoreboard as much as possible. Going into playoffs, I don't think you're going to see, like this next game we're going to talk about is against the Kings, where you have a 6-2 game in a playoffs game. It's not likely to happen.
No, absolutely. It's very unlikely. Those are kind of games that are usually a lot closer because there's just so many better teams. But speaking of that Kings game, even though it was against the Kings who are at the bottom of the league right now, it's still a great game. I think it was nice for the offense to get sparked once again after having a game like they did in Anaheim. So everybody got points in that one, and they were just flying at such a high pace. That was a really good game for them.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of people off the score sheet in that one. You have Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Callahan, McDonough, Stamkos, and Joseph all scoring in this game. And, there's several people that acquired assists in this one as well. So, I mean, having a game like this where you have that much offensive firepower is great to see as well. But I guess there was no love lost there, huh, Jake, between the Tampa Bay Lightning and Nate Thompson there.
Yeah, no. Those two guys, these two, they went at it for a little while. But that's how it's going to be with old friends. I'm sure some of it was all fun and games, but I think overall, Bolts fans are very happy to show too that even in those offensive games, they can stand up to and still have that little bit of physicality that they need in every game.
Yeah, and what do you think about this one, Victor, against the Kings here?
I just know the power play was just dynamite. It was just lights out. It was incredible to just see how dominant they were, and seeing the broadcast beforehand, the pregame, how the Kings were pretty confident looking. They were saying, "Oh, Quick's back in. We got the game. We'll be able to shut down a high scoring team." And after that 5-on-3, it was just game over.
You know what? That's very true. That power play was absolutely fantastic that game. I mean, that they were clicking. They got the cross crease passes going with Stamkos and Kucherov. It's funny when you watch the Bolts power play this year. They kind of play almost a triangle, so to speak, where they got Hedman up top, Stamkos and Kuch on the right or left, respectively, and then they've got one more guy down low and another guy right in front of the net. But they'll mainly start passing that puck between Kucherov, Stamkos, and Hedman until one of them finds that cross crease pass, and then it's game over from there.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, we are number one in the league in the power play percentage. I believe we're like 30% or so. The last game I saw. So I mean, that's an incredible stat to have that high percentage of power play goals and likelihood to score. I mean, every single time that they get on the power play, it's almost automatic.
Yeah, we're currently leading the league with 30% right now.
Yeah, that's what I thought, 30%. The next game, unfortunately, we did take a loss to the Sharks. We thought this game was gonna be a little bit closer, right, Jake?
Yeah, for sure. The Sharks just played a fantastic game. Credit where credit is due. The Sharks played very well. They shut down the Bolts offensively. I think that was the biggest thing for the Sharks is their defense was just on point. They played very, very well. They took it to us. The defense was playing up on the play. I think we were playing a little slow too, which ended up hurting us in the long run in this game. But all good things have to come to an end. It's something that's going to happen. The most important thing is that you rebound.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, speaking of rebounds, Sergachev got his first goal in this game, and Sergachev looks good as of late. He got kind of to a slow start, and we are halfway through the season, and he got his first goal. He compared it against last season. But like I say, I mean, it's nice to see him get on the scoreboard as well. So the next game is a rebound game. I mean, we played the Blue Jackets, and we shut them out. Vazzy had, I believe, over 30 saves in this one, and he got his 14th career shutout.
31 saves for a shutout, and that's pretty good. I don't know that game. That three what was it? Two full, so 3 days in between their game. I thought that would be kind of hard to rebound because of the fact that they just came off a loss where I want to say it was on the end of the road trip, and that was the reason they lost. But to see them come out with a performance like that at home, 4-0, and a good game from Vazzy, that was pretty good to start off their new, what we hope is a new streak.
Yeah, the Bolts played very well in that game, and like I was mentioning before, the rebound is so important. They came out flying. They beat Columbus before. I believe it was 6-2 earlier in the year. So this was a team we expected to beat, and they came out and did it. So that's what you want to see. Vazzy has just been so good this year, especially coming back from injury. It's like the injury almost helped him in a way. But it was good to see him get a shutout. The Bolts haven't had too many shutouts over the last couple of years, but it was nice to see them get one there.
Yeah, and speaking of the streak, guys, we also won last night. Palat got one there, and Point got 2, almost got 3, but unfortunately Tyler Johnson was a little bit slow on the play, especially after the comments by Victor Hedman, where he's like, oh, Point would have gotten a hat trick if it wasn't for you, Johnny. So it throws a little shade, but, they played a great game.
Oh, yeah, overall it was a great game. That was a bummer Point didn't get it. It was funny. I think when everybody first saw that replay, they were like, I cannot believe Carolina challenges play. It was so clear. But then, little did we know, Johnson just had that skate just ever so slightly on the ice, which was a bummer. But, I think this is the game that people will look at because, a lot of people ask, why is this Lightning team so good? Why is this Lightning team so much different from last year's? And this is exactly why. This was a terrible game in the first period for the Bolts. They did not have a good period. They had one shot on goal for over half of that first period, and they were down for the first period. They were down 1-0 at the end of one, and they made adjustments and they came back and they won this game. And that's what's so important with this team is they make adjustments, they come back, and they keep on fighting.
And then with a good power play like that, 2 goals in the third, Palat with the power play, and then Point with one, that just really helps out. You have that tool, pretty much automatic goals, but you actually pull off a good result with 2 goals in the power play.
Yeah, it's great to see, like you say, guys, about the power play, and that's what you got to rely on. I mean, if teams take a penalty against us, like I said before, it's almost automatic scoring. I did have a question earlier. Let me see if I can get to it on our Twitter page here. This person on Twitter named Seti, their at is ClarityTB. One of the things that they asked is the first thing is offsides in the second period when a player is stepping onto the ice. An example, Tyler Johnson call on the last Tampa Bay Lightning game. I'm not really sure if this is a question or not, because it's talking about a rule change. But do you think that it should have been an allowed goal? I guess that's what they're trying to get here.
As the rule states, no, it was offsides, and they made the right call. Now the question of whether the rule is a good rule, that's debatable. I think it's unfortunate that a player who is nowhere near the play and is completely not affecting the play ends up, taking away a goal from Point. But, as the rule is written, it is the right call. It's just, I think an unfortunate situation. I don't have too much of a problem with it. This doesn't happen too often. This just shows that Bolts players and all players need to get off the ice as quickly as they can to make sure this doesn't happen.
Yeah, and Vic, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Do you think that it should have been let's put it in a different perspective. Do you think that it should have been an allowed goal if it was Carolina?
It's just the fact that they challenged it was strange enough, right? Like that's pretty risky to think well, he's not even involved in the play. I don't think they would have allowed it if Tampa had challenged it, had Carolina scored like that. But the thing is, they probably will take. It's gonna have to be something that they look at in the summer and be like, hey, should we change this rule? Because he's not even involved. That kind of kill. That's a buzzkill. You put in the hard work, you get a goal, and it's like, oh, but your teammate who wasn't involved just got involved indirectly and took your goal off.
I think a problem with that, though, is how do you write that rule? That's a really hard rule to write, because if you say, oh, well, the player just can't be involved with the play, but how do you define that? That's a tough thing to define, and the issue could come in, with other scenarios where a player, is getting off the ice, but he's not fully in there, and then fans would say, oh, well, he's not involved in the play, but yet he had just touched the puck recently and could have a big impact on the play. So I think that's the main reason, why there's nothing there for that situation, is because that's a really hard thing to write.
Yeah, that's what I think too. You have to look at the whole situation. If a player's offsides, they're offsides. We all face this consequence when Druin was offsides against the Penguins. So unfortunately, if a player's offsides, they're offsides. It's not gonna change one way or the other.
Yeah, as long as it's black and white, league wide, that's perfectly fine. If you're gonna call that on anybody, like, hey, the rule says this, like, fine by me. Go ahead and look at it during the off season, see maybe if it'll change. But yeah, the wording is gonna be really tricky to say, okay, yeah, he's not involved, or yes, he is on side.
Yeah, and then the second rule that they were talking about is this: no icing when shooting a puck at an open net when goalie pulls for an extra attacker, so that way it leads to more offense. I don't think that this should be changed because, I mean, if that happens, literally all they have to do is skate back to the end of the ice and then score that way.
Yeah, that would cause for people just to keep flinging pucks down towards the net and trying to get that goal. It creates almost like a power play situation where, teams can just dump it out. I don't think that's – I mean, does it create more offense potentially? Yes, but those are end-of-goal games that end up not meaning too much in the sense of, when you look at a 3-1 game, but one of the goals was empty netter, you really think of that game as 2-1. So I don't think so. I think teams should have to earn it and get out of the zone and without taking without having players get too tired.
Well, that's another thing that's black and white. I mean, if it's an icing, it's an icing. It's not really a gray area. So, but what do you think about it, Jake? I mean, Victor.
I mean, I'm pretty sure coaches. I've heard it enough that they encourage their players. With the empty net, if they win a faceoff and they can get an empty net goal, take the empty, like, just shoot it from your own end of the ice or behind and if it's an icing, so be it. And I don't think they changed the rule simply because how we already have hybrid skating. They might say this will lead to, shoot it from behind your line and you're over there racing for the puck, right, to score. A defender's going to stop you. If I heard you guys correctly, right?
Sorry,
what's that? I'm sorry.
What were you saying?
Like, if you shoot it from behind center ice, which would be an icing, right? If there was no icing, the play's still alive, right?
Correct.
Right.
So when a defender who's on a team that's trailing go get that puck because they don't have that advantage anymore. Oh, I just have to get to the hash mark and they're gonna blow the play dead.
Right.
So,
as far as the whole icing thing.
Yeah. I think it would kind of go against the whole hybrid icing for regular plays and the safety concern of why hybrid is in there.
Yeah.
You're going to have a player charged to the corner.
So basically, if you got to change icing in one scenario, you got to change the whole thing over.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you change it just for empty net? Just for offense, it's like Jake said, the goal, an empty net goal isn't a whole big deal. If you lose 2-1, 3-1, I mean, they pull the goalie because they're just trying to avoid a loss. Just sealing a loss on a play like that, it's not a big deal.
And don't get me wrong, obviously, empty net goals can be extremely important because we've seen before teams score an empty net goal and then the team that's trailing end up, scoring a goal that would have tied the game. But what I mean by that is it's just I don't think it warrants a change in that situation. I mean, it doesn't have an effect on it where you can sit there and say this is not a good – I mean, that's what's also what makes it exciting is teams try to clear the puck and it's an icing and you're like, okay, they still got a chance. There's still plenty of time left on the clock. If they had to go chase the puck, I mean, that would kill a lot of these close games where they end up tying it late.
Exactly. It's like take the shot at your wrist, and if you don't score it, then there you go. You just gave the team something where they can set up and potentially tie the game on.
Exactly.
And the next thing I want to try to talk about, guys, I know it's only like a month away, but I want to try to talk about the trade deadline. One of the people that have been named to come to the Lightning in some sort of trade is Wayne Simmons. And, Jake, we've been talking about this a little bit here and there as, they said that the Lightning need, strength. So do you think someone – like bringing back maybe a Brian Boyle or Wayne Simmons, who both contracts are expiring. Do you think that might be better for our team for that depth?
Honestly, no. I don't think the Lightning will be going after too many people at the trade deadline, and I don't think they should. This team is currently dominating the NHL still. They're still running through everybody. They lead the league with 70 points. They're the first team to 70 points. They're up on Calgary by 10 with a game in hand. As the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't think there's any reason for the Lightning to make any changes. I think this team has the chemistry that it wants, so I wouldn't make any moves personally.
And what do you think, Victor? Do you think we make any moves during the trade deadline there?
I personally wouldn't on that same model. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Also because, if you're saying Boyle, you kind of know what to expect from him, but then again, how does he fit in this scheme? If you want to go after like a superstar who's on a running out contract, I don't think you're going to be able to get that. And then you don't want something to happen. The players aren't a time to mess around, so you don't want something to happen like the Sharks did when they got Carlson, where he was kind of struggling. To me, he kind of ruined the defensive scheme for a bit. Now he's getting settled in. But yeah, you don't want to do that in the playoffs when every shift counts. Any little mistake, you lose one, and series could turn on you. Yet, if it's working as it is, I think you gotta trust the players you've been giving the nod to every game, and just go with that. There's enough depth on this team. There's good enough chemistry. I would just leave the team as is. Maybe picks for the future, but I don't see it.
Yeah, that's the thing too. You don't want to squander away your future for right now. Our team is, like you said, it's not broken, so why go off and pick up these big names? We talked about this in the offseason, picking a player like Temi Panarin. Temi Panarin is going to cost you a lot. So, you're not going to go on after him, especially considering how well your team has been playing, and you want to have that future in your team as well.
We could win right now, so we don't need other players to put us over to that next level or anything like that. We can win the cup with the team we have. It's a matter of, how well did they execute and whatnot. But so I just don't see it. I don't think anything will happen. I believe it'll be a relatively quiet trade deadline for the Bolts. The only guy that I could have seen going was Cuckoo, and he's already been traded, so I think we're done for now.
Yeah, and we did make that trade. Going back to trades, guys, it's kind of interesting to see these first rounders being traded in the Yzerman era. I know Brisebois is taking over as of now, but it's you have so many players that have been traded that were first-round picks. You have Brett Connolly. Of course, you have. Sorry, let me get to this here. You have Brett Connolly. You have Brett. You have Vlad Nemestikov and Brett Howden, who were traded for McDonough and Miller. You have D'Angelo, who was traded to Arizona. You have Druin, who was traded for Sergachev. Of course, Sergachev was also a first-round pick by the Canadiens. But then you also have Cuckoo, who was traded to Chicago today for Tomas Ruda.
Yeah, this is just the way Yzerman was. He got so many good players through the draft, which gave him so much leverage in trades and why he's made so many good trades over the past few years. But, this is something more for the offseason. And, it'd be okay for the Bolts to trade a first-round pick. It's something that wouldn't concern too many Bolts fans because we know we still have a ton of organizational depth in Syracuse. They're playing really well right now. So it is interesting that we trade a lot of these guys away, but I think the key thing to keep in mind is the return we keep getting. The return shows that we're getting players that could have been first-round picks if they were to be redrafted or something like that.
Yeah, just because you're a first-rounder doesn't necessarily just say, oh, he's a better player than a second-rounder at a time as development comes on. I'm pretty sure we're all happy with Sergachev or Drouin. Some of them, you hear those strange stories like Panarin undrafted, Datsuk very, very deep in the round where that round doesn't even exist anymore. So there's no limit to say, oh, he's a first rounder, he's automatically good versus a third round. It just depends the scheme, the time, the player themselves, who they're playing with. So I wouldn't be too mad about losing a first round pick if you trade it to something. And even if that player turns out to be good, there's no proof to say, oh, he would have fit right in with Tampa and done exactly what he's doing. Mirror image, no. So it's just how the game is. You got to make moves. The team is already stacked in depth with Syracuse, like you guys have said, and those guys kind of deserve a chance first, I think. And they'll probably be the ones to get the call up if we need them.
Yeah, and we talk about the players that have been selected late. I mean, you look at even Nikita Kucherov. Nikita Kucherov was selected late second round. So I mean, we have so much organizational depth, and we have great what's the word, scouts as well. So I mean, it's great to see that. Not the as far as much as the core, but the organizational depth that we have. I mean, we still have a lot of players in juniors still too that will eventually come up. So we have a great team, and it's not only just like I said before, a win now team, but a team that's going to be successful late. And we have Eiserman to thank for that. He was a great GM. It's unfortunate that he's going to leave at the end of the season because of how great he was, and he's got to move on.
If not, we have the Rangers that we can pick from too, so no big deal.
That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many people that were Rangers that were played for the Bolts. It's almost like the Tampa Bay Rangers. But going forward now, guys, we do have a pretty tough schedule coming up. We have, first up is the Buffalo Sabres, which play tomorrow. Is an Atlantic Division game, and you have Jeff Skinner, who has just nominated to the All-Star game. And, they have a lot of organizational depth in that team as well. I mean, you look at Rasmus Dahlin and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a tough game. It's also a 4-point game. Essentially being an Atlantic Division team. How do you think you guys fare up in this one?
When I look at this game, this is a game I expect the Lightning to win. I've been saying that a lot. I think every game you look at, you expect the Lightning to win because of how we're playing. But this is definitely going to be a tougher matchup for sure, versus some other teams. But I think this is a game that the Lightning are going to come into, and they know they can beat Buffalo when they're hot too. We beat them. We ended their winning streak when they were trying to get to that 10-game winning streak, if you remember that. So, I don't know who's going to be playing goalie for this game. I expect Domingue to get a start very soon. But, whoever it is, I know they're going to be playing at their highest level. And this will be another good, fun game to watch.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's a good question, too. I don't know if the Lightning will play Domingue either tomorrow or against the Islanders on Sunday. You usually see your first guy to play the back end, but I think I play Vazzy in this game. What do you have to say about this game, Victor?
See, that's the thing too. That was going to get to the front end of back to back, but Buffalo's going to be traveling back home tonight because they just lost in Carolina. So that might make a goalie change for them. Not sure who played for them tonight. So they might go with their backup. And then I want to say you want to put in Vazzy this game because of the fact that they're a division opponent and because they may be tired, they may not. You might see other lineup changes for Tampa, maybe one or two. Maybe Sergachev is out or in, depending. Well, he's probably going to be in. He's been playing good. But you know how Cooper works. Sometimes somebody sits out. So it's a game that they should win. They just beat Carolina, who beat Buffalo. So, I could see them winning. But it's one where I don't think you want to risk too much because you also have to keep that next game the next night in your mind.
Yeah, and it is a pretty short road trip. I mean, we go. It's kind of an interesting road trip though. We go to New York, we play the Sabres, and the next game we play the Islanders. Now the Islanders, I think it's going to be the easier of the two games. However, you got a lot of offensive firepower there as well. I mean, you got Matthew Barzal, who is an incredible player. But, it's going to be a battle of matchups in this one, too.
Yeah, for sure. The Islanders are a very good team. Any team can beat any team, but I think this goes back to what I always say. These games are a matter of how are the Bolts going to execute. If they can execute their game plan and play well, like we've seen them do against the Kings, against the Blue Jackets, they're going to win these games. But if they let teams get to them, slow their game down, and force them to make silly passes and not be able to get set up in the offensive zone like Carolina did and the Sharks did, those are going to be harder games and games they could potentially lose. So, I think a lot of these games are, you got to sit there and ask yourself, how are the Bolts going to play?
Yeah, they established their game and their power play. That's pretty much it. Tampa's got it. Unless the Islanders or Sabres in those games can put out their way of playing, their game plan, then they may be able to make Tampa struggle, like you guys said, against the Sharks and the Canes till it didn't work out. That's when you would see the team struggle. But the team's on a roll. They've been good at establishing their game, so if they establish it, they should be good to go for those two games.
Yeah. And then, it's like what I said about an interesting road trip. I mean, right after you go to New York, you go to Texas and play the Stars. The Stars are an interesting team, too. I mean, you got Ben and Sagan, who are great players, despite what the CEO might say. It's going to be a great game there, too. They got that top line of Ben, Sagan, and Radulov, who always get on that score sheet. And so what do you guys think about this one?
And don't forget about Ben Bishop, good old big man. He's such a good goaltender. He's still been playing well in Dallas. I think he'd give the Bolts a run for their money a little bit, as he knows the team pretty well as well. That should be a fun game. That'll definitely be an offensive game, so to speak. This is another reason, too, why you could say Domingue is more than likely going to start against the Islanders, because I would expect Vassy to go up against the Stars, have a Vassy-Bishop face-off there.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. But you guys say Bishop, but I wouldn't want to face Khudobin either, because he's been known, even though he gets the nod, he does pretty good when he's called up on. So it's not going to be an easy game. And then, you got to shut down their top line. Their top line is just, like Phil said, they're going to get on the score sheet one way or another. And then you got to watch out for Klingberg and Foxa, because they're tricky. They'll get on the score sheet too, believe it or not. And that's a game where, you're ending the road trip after some travel. I don't know who organized that road trip. That's a confusing one there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of interesting. I mean, New York and Texas nowhere near each other. But then we go back to Tampa Bay here on this one, and we play the Maple Leafs. It's another divisional game. Maple Leafs and the Lightning is going to be one hell of a matchup. You got the organizational depth for the Maple Leafs as far as offense, maybe not so much as defense. If you hear a lot of defensive trades, usually it revolves around the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it's going to be an interesting one considering our offense. I think we might come up with a win on this one, but you never know. I mean, the Maple Leafs might put another 5 spot on us. Who knows?
Yeah, this will be a fun game for sure. I mean, this is two of the top teams in the Atlantic Division going at it here. So a high-powered offensive game, I would expect it to be, and it should be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the games where I just want to let the players do the talking, because it's going to feel like a playoff game. Just start from the first whistle to the last whistle. It's going to be.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So it's going to be like a playoff game.
Yeah, and we're talking about being a playoff game. We might see a lot more physicality in that one than we normally see from the Bolts, because we know the Bolts are not a physical team, but I'm sure there'll be some hits and some heated players in that one.
Yeah, and of course, the Maple Leafs have, like I've said before, they have such a great offense. So I think it's going to be a great one. It's going to be definitely a game that you circle on your calendar there. And then the next game that we go to, we remain at home and we play the San Jose Sharks again. This is the last game that we're going to kind of talk about. And the Sharks, like I said before, they took advantage of us in the last game, so we're definitely looking for some revenge here.
Yeah, I fully expect the Bolts to be, on top of their game in this one. I think the key is, because like I mentioned, when we played the Sharks last time, they really made us play a slower pace game, which is not our strength, and we could not get our special teams going, whereas they could. So I think that'll be a big part of it. Can we keep our fast-paced game going and making sure the special teams are still moving at the rate that they can?
Yeah, that was a game where the Lightning were trying to cut down the lead, and as soon as they cut it down to 1, San Jose would get the next goal. They did that twice, led by 2, and then third. You got to risk it. It didn't work out. Sharks won. That's the way I see it. But yeah, they didn't let the Lightning execute on their game plan. That's something we want to establish here at home. And if they beat the Leafs, I'm pretty sure they'll be amped up to want to get that real revenge game.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's all I wanted to say about this week's podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, Victor, for coming on this one and joining us on the podcast.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
And as always, have a great one, everybody, and we'll see you next week. One last thing before we go, guys. I forgot to mention this as well. Victor was nice enough to buy this little action figure of Steven Stamkos. One of, how many are made there, Victor? One of 1,000?
It says 500 to 1,000 made only.
Yeah, so it's really rare. So Victor's going to do giveaway on that. And our secret code word is going to be presented here. And our secret code word is going to be vote point. I mean, it fortunately didn't happen, but I like that code word. And we're still going to continue the theme. So make sure you tweet this to Bay Bolts account on either Instagram or Twitter. And I'll kind of do a random generator and see who comes up with it.